Seek above all for a game worth playing. Oh baby, it's witchcraft contagious. I felt it for ages. We're out of these cages in this house of mages. It's witchcraft, it's dangerous. Beware of these pages. There's spells of all flavors in this house of mages. In this house of mages. In this house of mages.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Make Yoga Magick Again, the House of Mages podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Erulian Cuming. I am a mischievous mage, a lover of wisdom, a seeker of mysteries, and a ritual embodiment tantric yoga teacher trainer, amongst a myriad of many other weird and wonderful things. In this episode, I chat with pertinacious poet, anagogical acrobat, and pillow fort paladin Anna Maria Podgorczyk. Anna Maria is a multifaceted, creative business owner, dancer, writer, adventure enthusiast, and forest fairy. She dabbles in acting, photography, and many musical passions. She also suffers from ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease of the digestive system, and passionately advocates for mental health and well-being, inspired by her own struggles. Since 2014, Anna has embarked on the massive feat of self-healing through many modalities, including cold therapy, somatic release, yoga, low-tax living, and using tools such as CBD, psychedelics, and various other herbs. Anna hopes to return to the stage and screen one day, and she writes about this in her short story titled Invisibly Diseased Dancer. When she's not on pillow fort duty, sharing her journey through her writing, or supporting other creative visionaries, you'll find her frolicking through the forests and chasing waterfalls in the Byron hinterland. I met Anna about 5 years ago through some mutual friends when I was at Woodford Folk Festival. Although I only met Anna very briefly at the festival, since then we've had each other on social media and I've been seeing little snippets of her journey along the way. I always enjoyed what Anna was sharing on her socials, which up until that point was little snippets of dance, acro, or nature adventures, always done with an infectious smile and an obvious love for the magic of the world. Little did I know that behind her positive glow, she was fighting an invisible battle on which she shared a glimpse into in her short story titled Invisibly Diseased Dancer. I was so moved by Anna's writing, poetry, and her amazing ability to show up so vulnerably, yet often with humor and this amazing zest for life. Myself, and I'm sure many others, have been inspired by Anna's ability to transmute her sometimes harrowing experiences into a fire that she now shares with others, helping to shed light on mental health, diseases such as hers, and supporting others in keeping their own torches burning brightly. This is a chat I've been wanting to have for a while, and I'm so grateful to finally have her here on the podcast. So without further ado, philanthropic fairy and dharmic dancer, Anna Maria. So I have a conversation that I've been wanting to have for far too long, and we've been kind of bouncing back and forth, organizing a time, and it's finally aligned, and I'm so grateful that you've made the time. So today I am chatting with the author of The Invisibly Diseased Dancer, Anna Maria. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and it's my pleasure to be here. I'm so glad we've finally been able to connect, because it has been a few months of both of us going through different things. So it's wonderful to finally land in this space and just shed and unload and connect and tell some stories.
Yeah, we were just chatting before the podcast about just not holding back and just really, just using this as a space to share everything we want to. So I met Anna, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when I was presenting at Woodford Folk Festival. And we only chatted very briefly. I think, we connected on social media, and I've kind of just, as you do, just followed your journey a little bit. But yeah, when you started openly sharing all the things that you've been going through, and I read some of your writing, and honestly, it's not only just really good writing in general, but it was just so visceral and emotional, and yeah, I had to chat with you, and yeah, I'm really grateful, like obviously for you being here today with me, but just for sharing that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'd love to just start with what kind of led to all the different pieces that led to you writing that piece, like the Invisibly Diseased Dancer. But, as we were chatting before the podcast, you're such a multifaceted human that there's a lot of different pieces that I want to touch on, but I thought that would be a good place to start.
Of course, definitely. So about 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which then evolved into Crohn's disease. And it's been an extremely rough ride. I have one of the most severe cases. I have skimmed having my entire colon taken out many times. Doctors weren't so happy about that, but I have tended to always lead my own way in life. So I knew there was another way to self-healing. I knew that if anyone was going to do it, I was going to be able to do it. And not a lot of people believe in the self-healing journey, but I truly do. And lucky to be in this space that you've created with a lot of other amazing people as well who are on that journey as well. So in 2014, it was a very high energy time. It literally went from me going from 150% to 0%. So to paint the picture, I guess I was just opened my first business. It was Amped Dance Company because I am a dancer. I was also training on the national aerobic team. I was studying at university. It was all happening for me. But up until that point, a lot of things did happen in my life, which I'll touch on those shortly. But I was actually at a competition, and it was one night I noticed some blood in the toilet, and I thought, well, that's strange, but it takes a lot to kind of bring me down, which is not a good thing. So I kind of skimmed over that. I've actually got a video with my friend. We were bouncing on the bed, jumping around, no worries. The next day I was about to jump on the gymnastics floor, and I was just running to and from the bathroom in so much pain. I think I had gone about 20 times in the space of just a few hours. And I had waited in the bathroom until I could hear our call, and I had just ran onto the floor, completed the routine. I think we won.
Yeah. I remember reading that. I was, yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. And then, so I honestly can't remember how I made it home because I was going to the bathroom so much, and it was just got worse and worse, ended up straight in hospital, had a lot of tests and just minor surgeries and whatnot. And they said, oh, look, worst case scenario, it's ulcerative colitis. We probably don't think it is. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I got that phone call. I never expected to be a person with a chronic disease. I was always compassionate of it, but never fully understood it. Super high energy, I always was. And yeah, to hit that just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just had to stop absolutely everything. And I would kick myself all the times I've been in so much pain, but I'm so grateful for this journey. And every time I'm so sick, I'm like, why me? Why me? But every time I just come out of it slightly, I just go, oh my goodness, this has taught me so much. My relationships are so much deeper. My connection to nature is so much deeper. Connection to self, the things I've learned, my diet, my ability to see magic in the world. So, the 9 years up until now has been rather a crazy journey, but perhaps the journey before that was even crazier. I guess that led me there. So basically, for those people who don't know, I was in foster care, and that kind of kick-started my nervous system in overdrive, which is the root cause of my disease, which a lot of people don't focus on. They just focus straight on the actual disease where it is in the body. But my nervous system, with my depression, anxiety, and PTSD, has been a major player in that. So when I was 8 years old, I believe, my amazing mother, who unfortunately had schizophrenia, it was that time for us to part, and I was taken away. So that was quite a traumatic experience, of course. My life with her before then was wonderful. She was incredibly health focused. We were out in nature all the time. She was a young mum. She had me at 19 years old, and it was not viewed very good at the time, obviously. So that was a struggle for her, but we figured it out, her and I. And the schizophrenia started to show itself Probably around when I was 6 years old. And I soon kind of became a little bit of a co-carer at a very young age, and a second pair of eyes and someone to reassure her when she was having hallucinations or different things. I was thrown into a wall when she had freaked out, didn't realize it was me. So at 6 years old, I first learned how to patch a wall. Which has been a very handy skill. Just everyone should know how to do that. No one should learn that at 6 years old, though. But the predominant part was always us going to the park or the health food shop, or just enjoying really the beauty of life. As the schizophrenia really started to kick in, obviously I was taken into foster care, which equally was a beautiful experience and a very difficult experience as well. So I went to live on a farm, which sparked my love for nature and connection. And of course, when you go into foster care and if you haven't been vaccinated, you need to get caught up on everything. And it's very pressurized to have that done in a quick amount of time so that you can then enroll in school. So I had not been vaccinated whatsoever up until that point. So I had to catch up on everything up until 8 or 9 years old, which completely rocked my entire system. I don't think a small body should not be getting that many vaccines at once. I should mention an important part of this story, which really altered my immune system as well. I actually spent quite a bit of time isolated inside a room where I didn't see sunshine or the outside world. I don't know for how long. Court documents have got it recorded, whether it was weeks or months. So I hadn't seen another person apart from my mother. And inside, we did have a lot of fun. You know, we built pillow forts and we played games, and we were up until 4 a.m. and just doing crazy things in between hallucinations, of course. But, of course, my immune system was drastically reduced. And so coming out of that, quite literally being ripped out of that by, police. It was a bit of a tug of war of Anna horizontally in the air. I can laugh about it now, obviously terrible at the time. But so, of course, my body went from being completely isolated for a very long time, launched into a home with a whole lot of other foster kids. So you get sick, you get cold, you get a stomach. So I I had all of that in the space of, a very short few months, basically at the same time I was getting all that vaccine. So that was the point of the demise, I guess, of my body really being stressed out and needing a lot of help from other people, which I just wasn't able to get. So I also unfortunately experienced sexual abuse twice in the location basically of my anus, which caused a lot of trauma. And I really believe that our cells remember. So that's been something that I've really been working on, balancing my sacral chakra, really doing a lot of sound healing in that area, because that's where my disease has actually manifested the worst. So I think there is absolutely a direct connection there. So when I was fast forwarding to 17, I decided that for my mental health, my foster home was not working for me anymore. So I decided to leave home. Whatever courage, I don't know how I sparked up the courage to do that at the time, but we do. And I think we all have that in us when the situation arises and you just need to go for it. You just trust your intuition and you do. So at 17, I was determined to finish school, and I did, luckily, and enrolled in uni, opened my business at 17, made it official at 18, which was the dance company, and then continued to run that again until 19. So the interesting timing about it happening, at 19, it's when everything starts to actually balance out in your life. You've got some things are starting to feel a bit solid, your body can relax, and that's often when all of the trauma and everything will actually unload and something will manifest, because you're able to, take that, and the body goes, okay, I need to get this out of me. This is, I'm going to put all the alarm signs on. I'm going to put all the warning bells. There it is. So yeah, that was quite a shock to the system for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think that one of the interesting things is that I think like I was following along with your social media before you even started talking about this disease. And I remember just like being drawn to the stuff you're posting anyway, because it was always like you're always like frolicking and like nature and all that sort of stuff, and you just seem like one of the most positive, amazing, you just saw the word magically. And it was really interesting at the time, because I've had this conversation a few times, but I recently, right before I read your blog, I remember chatting to someone about the people that are often the most positive and see the world most magically and seem like the most happy-go-lucky, nothing ever goes wrong in their life. Usually they're like that because they've worked through a lot of shit, and they're the ones that make the most of life. And it's just an interesting thing that, like, some of us, what we do with situations, and some, it can defeat us. And, like, to be honest, like, all the things you've been, been through, like, I'm amazed that you just, like, how such a positive and, magical person. And so, what do you, like, how do you do it? You know what I mean? Like, for anyone else who might have gone through some stuff or is going through some things, what are some of the, like, where do you go to? Like, do you go to certain practices that you have, just certain mindsets? Have you, books, people, podcasts? Like, what do you use to get all the fire that you have, like, running through all the time for life?
Yeah, I loved that question, and thank you. It's wonderful to hear that feedback, because I have spent so much time in solitude, and you lose a sense of what the world thinks of you. And it's been wonderful because I stopped caring also. But I also now realize that people do recognize me for the true me, and that's a really lovely thing to hear. So thank you. In terms of the practices, the first one that comes to mind is journaling and writing, and I am incredibly grateful again for this disease that it led me towards writing, because I was always good at English and I loved writing essays. I think my English teacher might beg to differ perhaps, but it's just funny now that it's become my greatest passion. Dancing was always my channel before this disease. That's always where it went. And I just felt like a blank void when that got taken away from me, and especially with a disease that just completely bedridens you. And sometimes it hurts too much to even turn over. You can't even turn your body because that would make, the bleeding, the ulcers hurt, and you have to run to the bathroom. So you've just got to lay there dead still, which just sounds like torture. And it really was. And then, so it's like, well, what can I do? There is something really healing about movement, but I couldn't move. But I truly believe that writing is movement. It moves things inside of you. You can almost, if you think about when you're writing, where in your body there might be tension. Sometimes I'll think about actually writing into that space or pouring out those words. Like sometimes I might feel it might be pain in my chest. So it's like, well, what's there? And I might tap on it as I'm writing and try and unleash that and get that out of there. But the writing has just, once I made it enough of a daily practice, it was able just to spill out of me without really trying, and it would kind of catch me off guard because these poems or these things would just smack me in the face, and I would just like, where's a pen, where's a phone, I need to get this out. And it was just amazing to read back a lot of the things I was writing about. Wow, that's me. It really just helped me connect deeply to the true me. That's not my body. That's not even I don't think it's my my conscious mind that's writing. It's even beyond the subconscious. There's something I think that's really connecting to my spirit. And I first had the realization of that detachment from your physical body when I was 6 years old. Actually, I remember specifically staring into the mirror, dead into my pupils, and just looking into my eyes and just going, holy moly, that's me in there, this vessel. And I remember squishing my face and my flesh and just being like, wow, this is the outside of me, and the inside of me isn't even inside of me, it's somewhere else. And I think it's bizarre that I had that experience so young, but it's definitely stuck with me. And going to writing really helps me to connect with that again and again. But I have plenty of other practices beyond that as well, but I think the writing's been the most important one.
Yeah, and I absolutely love your writing. I'm so grateful that you share it, because I think a lot of people who do use it as like a self-therapy, that's amazing. But a lot of people, don't end up sharing that. And yeah, I think it's one of the most human things to do. And it's really interesting that I think a lot of people that really make an impact on the world, if you look at their stories, like if you look at their background, they're often people who have gone through a lot of turmoil and a lot of challenges, because comfort a lot of the time ends up making us a little bit, comfortable. And I think in my own personal journey, which obviously hasn't been as much as yours, but it's the uncomfortable parts of myself and the calamity and the chaos and the horrible experiences that have made me stop and just reevaluate things. And something else I want to touch on as well is that what you were talking about, right? You're saying it's deep in the subconscious part of your soul. And like in Tantra, which obviously this podcast is a lot about, is there's like this idea of the layers of self, and we have the physical body, and then we have our mind, emotions, and then we have our like kind of subconscious. But then we start to, when we get past that, we get to that part of ourself that is the most deepest part of ourself. But you know what the funny thing is, they talk about in Tantra, is that part that is our most like authentic true self is also the one part we all share equally as humans. And that's when you get to that collective unconscious kind of thing. And I think that's why sharing our experiences, it could be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And I think I find a lot of people that end up becoming teachers or who change lives, they've gone through things because then those people that have the courage to share, realize like all these other people find them, and that's exactly what they needed to overcome their journey. And so that's, other than me just wanting to talk to you in general, because I have so much that I want to ask you, but I think as well, it's my hope that, and I'm sure it already has. Like, I mean, I haven't gone through anywhere near what, you have in your journey, and I can't, but I don't know, it just inspired me. Like just reading, I've still reread some of your stuff. Like if ever I'm feeling like really down or really low, I'm just like, fuck, if she can get through this, then I can get through this. So I'd love to, talk a bit more about this like idea of like this deeper part of yourself that access, because I guess as well, like when I've been sick or when other people have been sick, they've talked about this idea of like everything else having the noise turned down, and like getting close to death, if I can call it that, it slips us into this like otherworldly, other realm type of consciousness. And to come back from that and to bring and to be, and I think that's only half the journey. It's also trying to like articulate what you experience, because you probably have the same thing. It's like you have these experiences, and we're going to talk about some plant medicine stuff soon as well. But it's like you have this realization. It's like, but what do I do with this, and how do I put this into practical words? So I'd love to hear about your experiences with this kind of like liminal in between space, and how what your process is of actually starting to articulate it and make sense of it.
Yeah, for sure. You said a word, and the word was comfort. And I think that's a really, that's the word I just wanted to expand on, because I think that's been a really big theme in this disease. And it's also just in a lot of people's journeys. There's a term that I read the other day. Of course, I've completely forgotten the term, but I can't explain it. I could send it to you after, and you can pop it in there. But it's basically the concept of when we, as humans, experience something moderately uncomfortable, we're more likely just to stick it out and not do anything about it. We're almost better off with a much worse scenario that's going to cause us to and be in extreme discomfort, to actually make change, to get out of that and shape your life from that. And I think that that's exactly what's happened to me. And it's definitely mental wiring from being a foster child. It's a bit of a tricky concept, but stay with me. I'll explain it, I guess. When you're a foster kid, you basically, you shut up, you do what you're told, you try not to make too much noise. If you're uncomfortable, you just deal with it. And which led my degree for dealing with uncomfortability to the highest. I could be, to touch back to this disease, I could be in the worst pain, most horrific, excruciating pain, or needing to vomit. And this is when I worked in, various jobs that wasn't working for myself. And I would just sit with it. and do nothing about it. And just because I thought that I couldn't share it, I couldn't articulate, I couldn't say what I was going through. And I also didn't know how to explain it for so many years. But because the disease goes through cycles of being extremely severe and then coming out of that, so you go through stages of being remission and out. Every time I go through a cycle of being sick, it's like going through a death, and it becomes so severe that it will push me to the point that I have to create my dream life. There's no other option. And that's the only way that I can get through this is, just chasing my dreams and chasing the true me, the core of who I am. And I'm not perfect. It's definitely a lesson that has taken me a long time to learn, but I never dreamed of who I guess I've become now back when I was diagnosed, because I hadn't even uncovered that, and I hadn't had the courage to chase after that. I think I was very hidden under a veil for a really long time. I always felt like this undercover hippie in a suit, or this, just crazy forest girl that just wanted to go run with the wolves and scream at the moon, doing all these being a ballerina, having my hair slicked back, standing very prim and proper. And I just really been a lot of deaths to even hold my body differently. I was walking the other day. I just felt so much ease in my body because I've learned how to breathe through that pain and get through all of that, and just pulling through all my tools from cold therapy, which ties into the theme of comfortability. I think cold therapy has been a massive, massive tool for me, something I practice every single day. If I'm feeling anxious or if I feel that disease turn on in my body, I just run in the shower, cold therapy, and it really is an amazing reset.
I'm a big fan of doing ice baths and things like that. Like even like all the meditation, everything, even plant journeys I've done, like I feel like some of my most connected to the universe moments have been in an ice bath, where I feel like just things get simplified.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the answer is always simplicity. And I think that can just be applied everywhere. And I think that's the next theme that has really helped me with, after being so uncomfortable for so long and being forced to shape my life, to be really simple, to go back to working for myself, to cultivate hours and hours in my day where I can just sit with myself and work through these emotions and whatnot. And it's really forced me to just cut out, everything. Many years ago, I cut out alcohol. Many years ago, gluten and dairy, toxic people, tricky situations, from, living just eco in the home, even just cutting my hair off short, getting rid of all my clothes, just completely simplifying. And I had quite a magical moment before my psychedelic experience, before I'd even touched drugs, before I'd ever done a single drug. I was in hospital, and just the sheer simplicity of having no distractions, no sound. Luckily, I usually get put in a room of my own as I need to use the toilet at the drop of a hat. So that's a very welcomed bonus of this disease. So I also don't have a lot of family, so I don't have a lot of support or people to talk to. So many weeks and months of this disease has just been in total solitude with not a lot of coping things to reach for. There's alcohol or food, you can't even reach to food as a comfort tool with this disease, because it's just going to make you sicker if you don't have healthy eating patterns and whatnot. And any form of drugs wasn't in my life, so I couldn't reach that. So there was no option of any form of comfort or self-soothing that wasn't diving deep and just getting through it. And I remember I just sat with myself, and it was chaos, absolute chaos in my mind for so long. And it was almost distressing. And then it just went quiet. And it was just the most magical experience, completely, drug-free. And I was just staring at the hospital ceiling. And I just remember I just started laughing, and at how lucky I felt to just have this peaceful space and a moment of quiet. And just that I just thought was, it was really special. I actually heard mentally, I went into this meditation where I went into this warehouse, and the warehouse was actually represented the inside of my body, but still looked very industrial. And everyone had clocked off. It was almost like all the workers were just out. It was just this abysmal space of dark and nothing. And I just heard this dripping in the corner, and I just followed the dripping until I came closer and closer and closer, and it was also a bit more phosphorescent. And then this just river came through this warehouse that was the inside of my body, and it felt like a shiver. And it was like this wave of creativity. And from that point, that was really when I started writing. That was when I first started writing Invisibly, Deceased Dancer. And I actually wrote a particular poem at that time, which I will share with you. And I should have prepared it earlier, but I hopefully can find it very quickly in my notes.
If you want, while you're finding that, I would love to touch on something you said just on that same kind of theme of comfort. I remember reading this book years ago, and it talked about this concept of struggle and beauty. Yeah. And I can't remember like the exact quote, but it was something around your capacity to experience beauty in the world is always equal to your capacity to experience and appreciate struggle. In that, like, if like the level of like exactly what you were talking about, and now that makes so much sense because you've been through the ringer, like you've experienced like the deepest, darkest depths of struggle, but that explains why, from my perspective, when you do have these beautiful days, like you just see everything, like you see like the absolute magical beauty in everything. And I feel like everything kind of balances out. And like, obviously, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through these things, but thank you for still seeing the beauty in everything. And I'm keen for this poem.
Yeah, I love what you just mentioned with the scale of how I was actually going to say it myself and I was trying to remember, but it's perfect that you mentioned it. I truly do believe that the amount of depth of our darkness equals the amount of light that we have access to within ourselves. And the more I've unlocked rock bottom after darkness that I thought would never end, after darkness that I thought would just totally encapsulate me, that equal light just returns in my life afterwards. And it's been in quite a literal sense as well. I needed to spend quite a few months in darkness and solitude and minimal sound after quite a traumatic experience happened in April last year, only 12 months ago now. And just really sinking into that really helped. But I was I was like a vampire. Sunshine was just like, I felt like it wasn't for me. I felt like the sun was shining and was teasing me. And it was like, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to go outside, go back inside. And it's taken me a long time to actually, be able to feel happy and well enough to step outside, into the light, but also into my own light that I cultivate. And that's what really gets me through. I think you asked me at the very start of this podcast, what gets you through? And I think it's that scale, that beauty. And we're meant to feel, we're meant to go through those death cycles because it really just unlocks so much. And I write a little bit more about that on my Instagram. So a lot of my writings you can just go on there and find. But I'll read you this poem that I wrote in hospital in that same visit. I'm exhausted, but I cannot rest. My body is fighting a silent war. Unknown to the outside world, it's ear-piercing on the inside. I feel every cell in my body, every vein, like chaotic highways, scrambling cars, trying to connect messages lost in translation. My soul is screaming, but I sit here still, a silent storm, a mindful mess, another day in this body.
Thank you. Like I there's a couple of things I want to touch on. The first is like this idea of, it's funny you were talking about like connecting to this deeper part of yourself as well, like your soul. And I feel like, struggle can sometimes temper your soul, like in the way that it's like forging this like immortal part of yourself. And even like as someone who grew up watching a lot of like cartoons and anime and stuff like that, the heroes or the characters like would often put themselves in like crazily dangerous, like in Dragon Ball Z they used to go into like this hyperbolic chamber where it was like gravity was extra, but because they were willing to do the things and go through the struggle and like the pain that other people can't, they became like, that's the reason there's a whole anime about them, because this is all real. Anime's always real.
But
just one more part of that. If there's someone listening right now who is going through like whatever they're going through and struggling to find reason to go on, what would you say to them? That what would you share with them to, I guess, from your point of view, that it is worth it. It is, the beauty is worth the struggle.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to refer to a poem for this one.
Yeah, cool.
For sure. I think that's probably the best way to.
Yeah, well, I was actually, it's funny, I meant to ask you before this podcast if you'd be okay to share some poems, but then we got chatting about all the other things and I completely forgot. So boom, like I'm really happy because, I feel like it's such a big part of what you do, your ability to, and I love poetry in general. Like poetry, I've heard it called the language of the gods.
Yes.
So or the language of the universe.
Yep, that's exactly it. So I just realized this one's actually not a poem. It's just random writings, I guess, but I think it explains it well. I feel home on this earth, but not in this body for now. So I feel like I'm an intruder on every square inch of this spinning sphere. Chronic diseases are the emergency sirens of your body. They're the clues to cultivate optimum healing. And I think that goes for physical and mental as well. I'm so dedicated to this healing journey, but there's been more times than I can count that I've wanted to leave my earthly body for the spirit realm to escape the pain that has quite literally ripped through my body. That is something that I cannot fathom to explain. It's the kind that you accept not living is better than it. And I think how one day, not today, but very far away, I will be a spirit missing this sweet earthly body, the body that can touch cool water and feel a warm embrace, the body that can squish dirt between my toes and let rain fall on my nose, the body that can taste delicious food and tell my friends that I love them. Oh, how I miss this body one day, not today, very far away. And tonight, I think, as I let my dreams take me to the spirit realm, thank goodness I have my sweet little body to return to when the morning does come, to smell another flower and watch another sunrise.
Thank you. I would love to segue into something we chatted a little bit, and you've already kind of touched on, is that any person, I think, gets messages from their body, right? And so whether it's like, what food that you want to consume and decisions that you make, because I think a lot of people are constantly just trying to figure out a language with their body. And I see yours is just speaking extra loudly. And so I'd love to start just chatting a little bit because I want to get onto all the other things you do as well. But I just want to segue into this first. In both like your friendships, romantic relationships, and your work relationships. I think just learning to listen to your body, like tools that you have for that, and also how to communicate that with people, like gently, effectively, because I think it's just such an important tool. Because a lot of people, like you were saying, right? Like you were saying that sometimes you need something big to happen. Like a little thing is like that makes you a bit uncomfortable, nothing's going to change. But because your body speaks so loudly, and obviously, like I'd love to, talk about how that's influenced how you communicate with people in your life, and and how to approach relationships and things like that. Because I think you would have some really great insight into how to ask for what you need. How to communicate that, so if you'd be willing to talk about that, I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a wonderful question because it's been something that I've really had to learn. One, being able to read all those sirens and things in my body and not dull them and just experience them for what they are. Because if I'm not connecting to that, then I can't express what I need to someone else. So to experience, full depth in all my relationships, I need to know my body and mind back to front, inside out, to be able to be like, this is where I'm at. Can you meet me at this level today? And I think specifically to just backtrack a little bit about not numbing anything, I think I was on endone and heavy painkillers for a really long time, and that just completely removed all concept of connection to my body because you just feel nothing. You just become an empty void. And in some parts it's wonderful. You're going for being in such extreme pain, and the same thing, lots of morphine I've had as well. And, you suddenly become completely numb in your body. Sometimes you can barely feel anything. And so I really had to, avoid all of that. And I'm really proud of myself that after I can't remember how many months it was, but it was nearing a year of endo. And I was like, this is not for me. This is going to ruin all my relationships. I feel no love. And that was a really bizarre thing to feel, to not feel love towards anything. There was not one thing that I loved. And that was scary. And I was like, right, I do not want to show up like this in relationships, friendships, romantically, with my pets, with the earth, any of that. So I did wean myself off, and then I just basically went cold turkey. No, I'm not doing this. And it was so hard. It was horrific getting off like endo. And, no one talks about that, and a lot of doctors don't really talk about that either, of, the plan after that. And when I had come to them saying, I want to try CBD, I want to try these different things, they just scoff at them a lot of the time. But then they just, it's also really hard to get access to pain medication. So you're really left in the lurch. So really removing that from my life was really important for my relationships. So from that, when I communicate with my friends or whatnot, I basically just say, look, I'm 85% today, or I'm 40%. Just is a really good way to just tell people that this is where I'm at, this is what I'm capable of. And you get very comfortable just about talking about poo. And all my friends, we all have a pretty just blunt relationship with I'll just be like, look, it's explosive over here. It's horrific. It's terrible. I'm struggling. I can't. You've just got to be blunt and so open. And I love that I've come to that point at this stage in my life, because it's just like, wow, when you just stop caring, you really do. And when you can just be open about where you're at. But a lot of that, obviously that's a symptom that's easy to communicate. But other symptoms that have been so difficult is my brain has left the building for today. If there is nothing inside my head, how do you communicate when you can't put a sentence together? I remember getting so sick that I couldn't string words together. I would get to word 3, forget what word 1 was, and then I would just lose my sentence. So that's really hard. And I really feel for people that have to go through that nonstop. I'm lucky, I guess, that my disease comes in cycles. This last cycle has been 2 years straight that I've been sick every single day and bleeding a lot. But some symptoms are easier to communicate, some aren't. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, cool. Well, the next thing I wanted to touch on as well, which also segues into this, is start like your healing journey as well. And you mentioned before the podcast when we were chatting that you've started using psychedelics for healing. And as someone who's over the years experimented and got my own huge benefits from different forms of psychedelics, I'd love to hear about your journey with them so far.
Yeah, my relationship with psychedelics is an interesting one because I was against them for so many years of my life because I was told that with my mother's schizophrenia and running throughout my family that I was very high risk. And I do believe in that. And I'm actually very glad that I didn't until later in life, because perhaps I might have abused them at a younger age when I was going through such a rough time. So it really was like this rule mark in my book that it was just this benchmark that was like, Anna, don't do that. And I was accepting it. I didn't mind about anyone else. But for me, in my head, I had just totally just thought it was the devil. It was terrible, not going to go there. So it was actually only until last year, so I'm 28 this year, 27 last year, that was the first time I actually started to experiment. So the two that I've used, using CBD and using THC in with that as well, and also using psilocybin. So I'll touch on the CBD first. That's probably the easiest one. The psilocybin one, that's a journey to chat about. So I'll chat about that second. Sure. The CBD, I started off just trying without THC. I was still very scared at the time, tried a ton, the ones you just get through a friend of a friend of a friend, and then more official ones and whatnot. And I finally found one that's really working magic in my body. And I did actually realize I needed the THC in there to really switch off those things in my nervous system that was happening and all those neurons that were just firing. And so really grateful for that one. It has just been an absolute game changer with just shaping my nervous system, because again, as I mentioned, that's the root cause of this disease, my hypersensitivity, because I've had to be so aware all the time from a young age in that survival mode, in that constant sympathetic nervous system, which then causes, anxiety and the disease to flare up, and that body, I'm using, quotation marks, attacking itself, which is slightly incorrect to say, of course, but yeah, the CBD has been amazing. I replaced 5 pharmaceuticals with CBD. I don't have to take painkillers. I don't have to take sleeping medication anymore. I don't have to take steroids. I don't have to take anti-nausea. I think I'm missing one. There's another one. Beta blockers. I was having to take heavy heart medication. It was just this mad spiral of pharmaceuticals, and now I can just use plant medicine with no side effects, and it's really working wonders on my body. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, cool. Sweet. Well, now we can, I'm really interested about, because we started talking about this before the podcast, and I was like, no, don't tell me now, because I want it to be like the first time I hear about it, like when we do it live. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear, about your journey with psilocybin. Yeah. So I was, it was last year, and I just felt like 27 years of life feeling depressed was just not worth it. And I was so suicidal, and I just thought, look, if I'm suicidal, why not just try everything, or why not just do the things that you're just never going to do? It's like, why not just give it a crack? It's like, I feel like, apologies to anyone. I probably should have mentioned a trigger warning before all of this as well. I know this is a tricky subject, and I think I do touch on it in more of a comical way, perhaps, which might be confusing at times. I think it's maybe a coping mechanism, but you have to laugh at the things in life. But so it was a very dark time. And it's just, look, if I feel like killing myself tomorrow, why not just try different things? So I reached out to a friend who I knew that I could find psilocybin with, and I decided to start microdosing. And that was wonderful. I think I got some good rewiring from that. But I think I needed something I needed like a clean out. I needed a flush out of the mind. So I got my journal out, and I decided to do like a 3 gram. I know there's a 5 gram hero dose. I kept it to 3 just to make sure I wasn't, I don't know, I'm a small person, so just to make sure. And I had the mantra of, show me there's another way. Show me the other side. Show me what I don't know. And I had the second one to get me through was, if I felt unsafe, was I am loved. I've always been loved. I'm loved in this moment. I've never been unloved. I've experienced hate and trauma and abuse, but at every second in my life, there was someone that loved me, even if it was a pet or if it was just one person. So that was what was going to get me through anything that might go awry. And I put my headphones on, and I just went into my blacked out room, and I put a weighted eye pillow on, and I experienced the most beautiful death I think I've ever experienced. And everyone that has talked about their psilocybin experience has said the same thing. And I came to this realization at the start that it was like, oh, I do want to pass into the spirit realm. This is beautiful. I had left my physical body at this stage, and it was just to be out of pain. Someone with a chronic disease, like, you're in pain 24/7. Your body just feels just completely like an alien trying to eat you from the inside out. It's disgusting. So to be able to just have that switched off and just become a spirit, and your mind is just magical. You're like, I'm staying here forever. I'm done. Yeah, that's it. And I was like, thank you, mushrooms. I wanted to die. Yeah, now I see it. I'm really peaceful with it. Let's go. And then I went into what felt like a womb, but a room, but it wasn't anything like tangible, but it was just like this cozy, comfortable, spherical space that felt like going back to a mother, and not just my mother, like the mother of all, the mother of everyone.
Like the cosmic womb.
That's exactly it. Described it perfectly. The cosmic womb. Yeah, thank you. I will, when I write this story out, I'm going to use that. I must write a note that was from you.
Yeah, well, I mean, they called it that in Tantra as well, but that's kind of what I experienced. I don't know if I've actually ever talked about this publicly about my experience, but yeah, I'm really grateful that you actually shared like the piece around feeling suicidal because yeah, I've had that various times in my life. But I did actually, last time I had that was when I did my hero journey as well. And I had the exact same, and that's helped me like, because I was like, look, if I'm at so low in this hole at the moment that I'm willing to if I'm actually willing to just end it, I'm like, I might as well do this first and I might as well do this to make the most of it. So I kind of I was really lucky. A friend of mine was away for a few days. She gave me her house. I fasted for a couple of days, did some of my like ritual practices. And on the last day, I took a 5-gram dose, which is probably equal to yours is probably equal because I'm much bigger human than you. And so, yeah, it was one, like I just laid in a dark room and it was the most terrifyingly beautiful experience of my life. But the main message I got from it that I felt like I visited the cosmic womb as well. And this essence just told me that all it wants to do is laugh and dance. And anything other than that is like not important, but less important. And like, I was like, oh my God. And at the time I was like, oh my God, I get it. I get the divine joke, like the divine cosmic joke. And I remember waking up the next day, I was like going down to get a chai because I hadn't like had anything for a few days. And I was like skipping down the footpath, but then I stopped. I was like, but what do I do with this information now? But like, I was like, okay, the universe just told me to just laugh and dance, but like, I can only do that for so long. Still need to go to work, still need to do all this stuff. I was like, so like that, I've been like unpacking that for years now, but yeah, that's why like it's interesting seeing you like when you're talking about on your days when you actually feel like you've got the energy to go out, like it seems like you just laugh and dance, like you get it, like yeah. So I think that's really beautiful, and yeah, because how would you? I wanted to ask as well, like, did you do it by yourself? Did you have someone supporting you in it, or what was the process about going about it?
Yeah, so I had someone nearby, but I found that it was too distracting for me and I needed to completely just like go into the tunnel. Yeah. And I really wanted to, another one of my mantras, I wanted to forget myself. I was like, I hate myself. I wanted to forget my name. My key points that I knew if it was working is I wanted to, completely forget my name. I wanted to forget my phone password as a test. Mm-hmm. And there was something else. And I did. There was a part where I had no clue who I was. There was a photo on my screen and I was like, I don't know who that is. And I couldn't unlock my phone and it was just like, but it's interesting. Like, I think you can lead your mind to do whatever you want it to do in that process. And I think because I was just so clear at the start that that's what I wanted to do. Like, it's not like everyone, is going to forget themselves. But I think if that's what you wanted to do, your brain will like, we can accomplish that. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And yeah, I just wanted to mention, like we were talking about before the podcast about, the difference between using these as like a vehicle to like access deeper parts of ourselves and versus recreational. And, like I understand, I've used some of these things a little bit recreationally, but that was afterwards. Like I made sure to approach them, with a very specific intention originally. And it sounds like you've kind of done the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why it worked so potent for me, because I hadn't done anything up until that age, and now I was specifically using for that purpose. And how like the THC acts in my body now is completely different to the first time I had it, so it's like that first time is just so potent. And I think that's why that psilocybin journey was so magical. And the next part of that was actually realizing how much I loved life after I went through that death. It's almost like I turned back around looking at Earth and just wanting to go home. Mm-hmm. I just had this sense of I just want to go home. And then that's exactly what I did. And I was just able to connect so much more deeply to the earth. I realized how little energy lines were in the earth below me where I was as well. It was at a time I was living on the coast, and I'm a forest and mountain person. I need my, mycelium network under all the trees. I need to connect to that. And it kind of gave me insight into that it was very sparse creatively. There was no life energy, and that relates to one of my favorite books. It's called Little Fur, I think it is. Yeah. It's a magical book. I'm actually reading the series again, but it's about this forest. I forget, it's forest nymph or fairy elf, and she's a healer. But to survive, she must always stay on Earth's energy. And that's stepping when she ventures into the human world to go on quests. She's got to tiptoe on the grass crack. She's got to be touching moss. She's got to be touching leaves. And I saw this like grid network under the earth underneath me that showed the energy reading of each space, which was really interesting. And it showed that there was nothing there at the time. And it was the first time I lived in a place there wasn't a tree in the backyard. I always make a tree friend and introduce myself and say, I'll look after you, look after me. And there was nothing, there was no life energy. And that reminded me, no wonder I feel dead. No wonder.
Oh, I don't know what happened then. I think my internet disconnected and reconnected.
Yeah.
All good. We had a glitch.
Yeah.
The universe had a glitch as you were talking about the glitches of the universe.
That's exactly it. If that ain't spiritual, then I don't know what is.
I was like, she's like cracked the code. We gotta
don't tell people that. Yeah, like that's not everyone's meant to know that. Secret safe within your community, of course. That was a really wonderful thing to experience. And then after that, I was like, I want to go to all the favorite versions of myself. The Anna that snowboards down mountains and that sings Chili Peppers in the car, driving to a favorite place. And I was able to step into whatever age I was, whoever I was, and actually feel that. And my senses started to come back, and I started to like smell what it smelled like at the time, feel what my body felt like. And it reminded me of a body that was healthy, and a body that could dance, and a body that could do aerials and all these things. And I was able to just zip through all these timelines of myself. And then I realized I wasn't time traveling. I was just in myself. I was in my body, because every age we've ever been is within us, and every age we're going to be is within us. So I kind of, as I was coming back to my senses and back into the world, I realized how much I just absolutely loved myself. I was able to watch myself like a movie, and I was like, this girl is great. She's fun. She's crazy. She's wild. She's ridiculous. She's awesome. She needs to be more like herself. And I'd just been on such a massive emotional journey that by the end, I was really excited to get back to my silly little routine of lying on my silly little acupressure mat and doing my little deep breathing and ankle risers while I, brushed my teeth. And I was just so excited to get back to those little things that I do. And that was the journey. So I would recommend 11 out of 10.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I had a similar thing in that at a certain point I would have these memories or stuff come through. But you know how usually the chronological order of things, but when I've been in those like plant medicine journeys, it all blends into one mush. Like I can't separate chronological time. Like I couldn't tell you, like, even though right now it's so obvious, like, if I have a memory when I was a kid, it's obviously come before now, but I couldn't separate the two. Like I couldn't tell you which one came first in that kind of space. It's like, it's like, everyone talks about that eternal now, that eternal present moment. And in Tantra, like we call that Kali. Kali is like the goddess of time, and she's the devourer of time. And I feel like I finally got that, because like it all just is, at the same, And again, it's one of those concepts that like when you feel it, like you get it, but right now, like it's, chronological time is easily a thing. I'd love to, in a second, get into, because you were talking about books before, but you are a soon-to-be multi-author, depending on which one you release first. But just before we get into that, I just wanted to just quickly tail end this with one last little bit, just everything you've spoken about. If anyone else has like has specifically like had some trauma in the past, any abuse, like is there anything that has helped you to start to release that from your body? Like, is there any tips that you can give someone, like, you know, because I think a lot of people just don't know what to do, like don't know how to move forward, don't know how to get this stuff out. Whereas like you found an outlet through your journaling that you mentioned, but is there anything else that you found that might help just to let go of things, or just to move forward, or to help them overcome these experiences that they've, you know, lodged themselves in people's bodies sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I have so many. The biggest one for me, which I'll talk about second, I'll rattle a few off first, but the biggest one is my energy healer, Ash, which is Asha Holistic Bodywork. I think I've been on more than a 1-year journey with her now, and she is just an angel. She's from another realm. We do massage and Reiki and spells and everything magical on my body, and a lot of somatic healing as well, and somatic release. She is just truly brilliant, and I recommend her to anyone. And she's really allowed me to reconnect back into my body. And with that, I've able to bring in other practices, like I've touched on using acupressure mats. I think that's really helpful to me. But the other one as well is pleasure, and self-pleasure too. That's been massive for me. My favorite, thing is before a cold shower, doing a steamy hot shower, self-pleasure, actually being able to feel that in your body. And that doesn't even have to be completely sexually. You can still pleasure yourself. Maybe it's massaging your hair or your hands, or just actually feeling and being in your body and being with your body, and just checking into certain points. Hot shower, pleasure, cold shower, that is like your trifecta for a good day.
Yeah, cool. And I would love to ask if you're okay sharing, like if someone does have like a bit of sexual trauma, and because I think some people, like I can't speak from an embodied perspective, but I have talked to people in the past that have trouble connecting to their body as a sense of pleasure, like because there's a lot of shame and a lot of stuff that so like if you'd be okay with sharing, like either your own experience or just tools, like how can one start to see their body as a recipient of or a vessel of pleasure if they've created a different story around it, or a lot of shame, or they've had that choice, taken away from them in certain ways? Like, if you're open to sharing your journey with that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first step for me, I had to reclaim my body, and to do that, I just had to go no touch for a really long time. I didn't feel like touching, and that was okay. And I think that serves a purpose at the time as well, just to reclaim your own energy and just create that safety bubble around you. And realizing that you can come back to that at any time. You can just express to your friends or family, don't feel like hugging today. No, don't feel like, really coming back to that and coming back to that safety. And then, of course, all the somatic release from there as well really helps. But I think also just following your pings and following your urges, and that might be, maybe your feet are itching. What's that about? Do I need to go earth ground myself? Do I need to go outside? And I think just really, we can block a lot of things. You might be like, you just want to just feel like shaking. You might be stuck in your office. Like, I just need to shake. I actually just started doing that in the office when I just, because I needed to. And that's really all those little things is how you reclaim your body. And then I'd actually get everyone else up and be like, right, we're going to shake, we're going to tap now. Does everyone feel better? And just normalizing what you need to do with your body. I might be in the supermarket and I'm like, I'm feeling really tight and tense, and put my basket down. I'm going to cop a hip flexor stretch, and just reclaiming whatever your body needs to do, just letting it do it. And sometimes, you might be having that panic attack and you're feeling your fists clench, and you're like, right, I'm going to get my pillow and I'm just going to sit there and just punch it out, safely, just creating that safe space to let that anger out. And I think once you create an equal flow with all your emotions, then you can come into more sexual energy from that. And I think sexual energy is creative energy, and all of that energy is just true authenticity to your truth and what you need as well.
Cool.
I think
thanks for sharing. No, that's great. And that's like a perfect segue into the next part. Like, I just want to talk about all the creative stuff that you do, because I feel like you do like a way above average than someone who wouldn't have all the challenges that you do. So add like all the challenges that you get, like, yeah. So I guess let's start with your writing. You're writing The Disease Dancer at the moment, and you said you're writing a couple of other books and things as well. So like, have you got a deadline for them? Are you just going to just naturally see what happens? And what are your plans with your books and your pieces of writing that you're looking at releasing?
Yeah, so this is very great to hold me accountable, because whatever I say now is
we're gonna have everyone messaging you and be like, "Where's the book at?
Where is it? I got to do it." So yeah, I've got 3 books in the works, and I am going to either self-publish them or maybe you'll get a deal. I don't care. Whatever needs to happen to get them out in the world, I will make sure that it happens. So of course, Invisibly Disease Dancer is something I really want to tell that story of, and my journey back to dance. So the deadline on that one, I haven't finished writing that one because I haven't finished experiencing that one. I'm very excited to return to dance. I got a very small snippet with some amazing dancers in Byron in January, and I fell sick.
Cool.
So that was wonderful. I'm getting back into classes. I think I'll finish experiencing that story when I do that first dance back in my body, really feeling that strength. That's when I'll be able to tie the bow on that one. The second one is everything I learned when I had nothing. And I've gone through many things in my life, from being homeless to, having no health, to having no family. And you really do learn so much from having those experiences. And it gives me such a great appreciation for the soul family that I have now, and the pockets of health that I do have and whatnot. And the third book will be poetry predominantly. So that one is Sweet Prose for Slow Living Modern Musings of the Modern Earth Dweller. It's a bit of a tongue tie. But that one's in the works as well. And yeah, that's just one of the many other creative things I've got on the run.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So what other passions do you have creatively? Because you help businesses kind of create branding and get their messages out there as well. And do you want to share more about what you do with that? And yeah, feel free to just rattle off all the creative things you do, because I'm really interested.
Yeah, it feels wonderful to be called a creative person, because for so many years I didn't think I was. And I was almost, even till recently, shocked when a client was like, "You're so creative and we love your work." And I was like, "I'm creative?" Because I guess I do spend so much time just in solitude and just doing my own thing. I guess I don't really realize how the world might perceive me. I guess I don't look out enough, or maybe even compare enough, I think. And it goes just back to following all those childlike pings of, I want to learn piano, or I want to learn photography, I want to learn videography. So back to my business, I knew that there was so much creative energy wanting to be released out of me. And for some part, I think that the disease of always, having to go to the bathroom and things always running out of me, it's energy not correctly output, basically. So I needed to create my business as a channel that I could follow all my creative pursuits. So having flexible hours. So through Anna Maria Creative, which is my business name, I do social media management and photography, content creation, videography, drone flying, writing, all of that. And with the flexibility of being my own boss, it lets me pick up a drum and just go, I'm going to do some drumming this morning. And that's what I literally did this morning, because I was feeling anxious about this podcast. So I was like, I'm just going to bang on a drum and see what happens. And there's lots of little things that I do, and who knows who I'll become or what I'll become. One of my goals in life is to surprise myself. Something I never, knew I might have done, but I definitely foresee myself getting back to the stage, but perhaps also from a directing point of view and a choreographer point of view, because that's where my biggest passions lie. So if at some point in my life I can have the title of author, director, and choreographer, I would be pretty happy with that. Yeah,
cool. Yeah. And so have you thought about getting back into teaching dance and things like that as well?
Yeah, I have thought about it, and a lot of people have asked me, but I think I need to nurture my own my own need to learn. When I
Yeah.
returned to classes, I just loved having someone tell me what to do. I think because in every other area of my life, I'm the boss, I'm in charge and no one tells me what to do. And sometimes it's so humbling and so wonderful just to be the student and to be coach. So I think I'm definitely in the stage now where I want to be the student and I want to be a sponge and I want to learn and be molded.
Fill your own cup up before you go filling others kind of thing. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I imagine that, like, I always like to see someone's own, like, synthesis of everything they do kind of put into one thing. And I kind of imagine you as, especially because you talked about kind of regulating your nervous system so much. I feel like now you have so many different tools and such like a fun, playful, magical way of like seeing it. I can imagine like running a workshop, kind of just all about like how to regulate your nervous system in like lots of different fun ways, and to like weave all this creativity through it, and just like a workshop that anyone could benefit from. So yeah, have you ever thought about doing something like that? And if not, like I could organize it on the sunny coast if you ever want to do it.
Well, I would, 100%. It's definitely in the cards. I think I want to experience and cultivate my craft a little bit more first. But that's the end goal. I would love to share what I've learned with other people, because I've only learned myself recently that maybe I do things a little bit differently to other people. I guess, like I mentioned before, I don't look up enough, I guess, and compare. So I just think what I do is just what everyone else does, and everyone else just knows this because I figured it out and whatnot. And I've just felt really honored lately when friends have asked me, well, how do you do that? Or what about this? And, we love how much knowledge you have on that. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should put this towards something and put it together. Yeah. So for sure, workshop and retreats is something I would absolutely love to do. And also on the other side of creativity, music videos is kind of the center meeting point of all my skills, and then storytelling. So I think that's where I'd most like to focus my energy on all my, future endeavors. Yeah. And I'll be working on my friend's music video shortly as well, and another friend's as well. So they'll be coming out at some point. So that's hopefully where I hope to evolve in.
Yeah, amazing. And if because it reminded me, we were chatting quite a while ago about Michael Jackson, and I didn't realize he had his poetry. And if you want to share maybe some of the influences that inspired you to dance and creativity and all that sort of stuff. So Michael Jackson obviously being one of them.
Yeah, Michael Jackson would have to be my biggest influence by far. And I can't even pinpoint which facet of himself is the most inspiring to me. A lot of people don't know that he was a humanitarian. He was an environmentalist. He did so many wonderful things for children and sick people. And I think there's so many sides to him. And he just had such an authentic and angelic-like spirit in every move that he made, whether it was business or relationships or anything. And he just showed up as that consistently until the day that he so sadly died. And I think that's such a good lesson and inspiration for myself. And he was so ridiculed for who he was, and he was so misunderstood, and he suffered greatly for that, but he just continued being himself and true to that. And his writing is incredibly inspiring to me and has been a massive reason for me to keep writing, because I think that's impacted me even more than his music. And I would urge anyone to read Dancing the Dream by Michael Jackson, which is not his biography. His biography, I don't think, touches on the true him, but this poetry really does. And it really helped me see the world in a different light. So he's a massive influence on me. And also Rupi Kaur, who I got to see the other night as well. I love her poetry. And she's another massive inspiration of mine. And to see how she performed and storytelled and gave such potent words to the audience as just herself standing on a stage in front of thousands really inspired me. So I'd love to do that one day as well.
Oh, cool. Amazing. So we're just coming towards the end of the podcast. I'm just seeing what else I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like, there's more that I want to kind of expand and dive into and get more of your lens. And I want to ask you about your view of the universe as well. But we're But yeah, if you just wanted to, so yeah, we're pretty close. Actually, I think we've gone over the hour, which is fine. But yeah, so if we just wanted to tail end it, because I shared with you earlier that, you know, what I'm really trying to do with these is offer a different lens. I would love just, if you can, in any, I know it's probably like a difficult thing to do, but like when you go out into the world, like even just, I mean, if you don't follow Anna on Instagram, I highly recommend doing it. Her links will be in the show notes. But I can tell by the way you're like taking videos, and that's great that you're doing the music videos and stuff, because the way you even just do little Instagram stories and stuff like that, you can tell that you're just trying to express and share the magic of the world. So if that's possible to do in like a few minutes of speaking, like how would you share your lens of how you view the world?
Yeah, absolutely. This was actually something I was writing about the other day, so it's remotely fresh in my mind. When I lifted the veil of running on overdrive and running on stress and anxiety and letting noise in my head from, you know, phones and social media and screens, when I lifted all of that and came back to slowness and was really learned to drop my nervous system into that delta wavelength, the world looks completely different. It's mind-blowing how it's almost, you know, you could experience the same day twice, completely different. The way that leaves sparkle, a water drop, a bird song, that they just seem so visceral to me when I'm able to just drop myself down. And I think the beautiful thing about that is something that is accessible to everyone, no matter what, you know, tools you have, no matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter. That is it. That state, when practiced enough, is accessible. And I think in that state, you realize how connected we all are and how, you know, the idea of that oneness. And I think that would be my biggest tip for, I guess, how I see the world.
Well, and to do hip flexor stretches in grocery stores.
Yeah, just do what you need to do. Who cares? Like, life is short.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's that I think we'll do for this podcast at least. Is there anything else you wanted to leave us with? Like, I will put everything that Anna sends me as far as links to her website and everything in the show notes. So scroll down, press the button, and you'll access all her magical goodness. But yeah, where else can people find you? Is there anything else that you wanted to share about what you do before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think just want to let people know and remind just how powerful like you are. Like, there is so, when you take all those layers down, there is so much that you can do with this life, and just to go for it. Your suffering is not worth it for other people. Just, yeah, go for whatever you need to, because life is short. And yeah, I hope that made sense.
Definitely, yeah. And it even just quickly, like I did mean to ask, because you mentioned one of the kind of cleansing things that you did was, yeah, even removing certain people from your life. And yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people feel bad about. Like, you know, it might be easier to cut certain habits or things out, but yeah, I think we don't realize how much our relationships and like our friendships and things like that can impact our nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I had more clarity in my body from removing distractions, I was a lot more attuned to the energy of others, and really able to realize when my body would stiffen up when I'm around another person. The purring is my cat, by the way, that picks up on the microphone. She's just decided to come in. So yeah, like, if you are on a healing journey, the best thing that you can do for everyone is cultivate your peace circle of people around you. And if someone's just not fitting into that at the time, it's okay to communicate that to them, that I just need to take some space from this relationship. I'm on this journey and I just need to go into it.
Cool. I might just quickly ask as well, what's the tattoo on your arm?
Oh, I have a few. I want to get so many more. I have Shall We Dance?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, lovely offering. I have the Buddhist path to enlightenment here.
Yeah.
coordinates to a lovely memory I have with my mum when I was younger. This spot here will be a mountain tattoo because my surname, Podgorczyk, is actually meaning someone who lives at the base of a mountain. I'm always very drawn to that ancestral heritage and tuning in with that. Chili Peppers is that one because greatest band. Yeah, and a beautiful botanical flower tattoo with one of my lovely friends using that one.
Cool.
Yep.
Great, thank you for sharing, and yeah, thank you so much, Anna, for like taking the time. You do so many amazing, epic things, and yeah, I'm just really grateful that I got to chat with you and got to share this with people. And yeah, please, I'm sure you will, but please continue to do what you're doing and bring so much more magic to the world. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, and please keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for this platform to be able to share. I feel just this conversation was so incredibly healing on a cellular level, even just in this last hour or however long we've been talking, possibly lifetimes, who knows. But yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, cool. So stay tuned. I'll definitely be getting Anna on again in the future, maybe in like 6 months or so, and yeah, we'll there's so much more I want to chat to you about, but I think this one will do for now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to and being a part of this episode of Make Yoga Magick Again, the House of Mages podcast. I've been your host, Daniel Erulian Cuming. Thank you so much to Anna Maria for being my guest for this episode. If you'd like to find out more about what Anna does, I've put all her links in the show notes below. If you'd like to know more about what we do here at the House of Mages, the links are all also in the show notes as per usual. Thank you again. I'll speak to you soon. Until then, make yoga magic again.